What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to yet another episode of Thought-Provoking Conversation. I am one of your hosts here, Irvin Ramirez, and then to my left is our other host, Yaid Puente. Say hi, Yaid.
What's up?
We've kind of lost track of how many episodes this is, so we'll put it down in the title somewhere. But we're back with another
We made
interview.
it to the double digits, though?
Yeah, we've been in double digits for a little while.
Oh,
I think this is
okay.
like 13 or 14, maybe.
Ooh,
I know, dude. It's almost like 3 months of doing this.
wow.
So today, again, we come with you. Gosh, I cannot speak today. We're coming at you with another interview. This person here is very dear to us, very close to our hearts. It's our LB, our Lime brother. He's part of our fraternity as well to continue the trend that we've had on here. He's a little bit further along than us, starting his first professional job here this year. And we wanted to pick his brain because this is the closest we've been to the person that we've interviewed. As you know, in the past, we've interviewed a couple more professionals who we know through our fraternity, but not necessarily got to know them as a person as much. But Germán, we spent many years with him so far. So we're excited to get to this conversation because I feel like we'll be able to connect on a whole different level. So without further ado, I'll let Mr. Germán Avila introduce himself.
Awesome. Thank you. How's it going, everyone? My name is Germán Avila, and I, like Irvin said, have the privilege of knowing them through our fraternity. Such a great experience, I swear. 5 years, going on to 6. I lost track of time.
So.
But no, yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to see where this goes. So, thank you.
So, what do you do? What's your position now? Since I kind of did hype up your new position.
Yeah, so I'm a recent graduate, 2020 graduate. I just earned my master's in higher education and student affairs. And like you said, like you mentioned in my intro, I just entered a new position, and I'm currently working in the Office of Academic Success and Intercultural Services, also known as OASIS here at the University of Nebraska. So definitely, a great experience working with them as an undergrad because I was one of their students as an undergrad and did a lot of work with them. But I'm, excited to be back. Although I'm working remotely right now, it's nice to know that I'm back in an office that really supports students, which is something that I think many higher education and student affairs professionals would kind of are wanting to go into student affairs for. So definitely excited to be on the team that really does intentional work to provide that support for students. So.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. I like that. Jay, do you want to kick us off?
Oh yeah. I was thinking of a couple of questions as he was talking, and so
I see.
I'm gonna start off with this one.
Attention to what he's saying.
Oh, absolutely. I was paying attention to what he said. No, yeah, I think he's doing a really great thing, and but anyways, I think a good place to start, Germán, is one question that I always hate and love getting asked this, with interviews and stuff, just because it's such a difficult question, and it's not a lot of words. You wouldn't think of this question as being very hard, but like, who are you, Germán? Who is Germán Avila? I'm curious how you'll answer this.
Germán Avila, who is he? That guy. Who are you? No. I don't know. I mean, do you want the short version, the long version?
Whatever you want.
I ain't going anywhere, bro.
Yeah.
I ain't going anywhere.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess it all relates and goes back to the way I was raised, my identities, my background, who has really created who I am today, right? So, born and raised in Grand Island, Nebraska, which is like an hour west of Lincoln. Both my parents are immigrants who came to the U.S. back in the 90s, early 90s. And migrated and came to Grand Island back in the 90s as well sometime. Like they were first in California, then came to Nebraska, and I was born there in 1996. But, grew up in Grand Island, which is, I would consider a predominantly white, small town. And that's where I grew up. That's how it's very interesting to see how I've kind of developed, just because I was growing up, I was always kind of to myself, very reserved, really didn't have friends. So elementary was good, middle school was good, high school came, started to kind of break out of my shell somewhat, got a job. And I think that's what really helped me kind of get out of my shell, working customer service, working retail, that really helped me. But after that, throughout my entire time growing up in education, as a first generation student, as a first generation in the US, I guess I should say, it was always kind of my mission, I guess, to go to college. It was something that was always pushed for me to do by my parents, and something that I kind of grew up knowing that I was gonna do. And like I said, it was considered a mission to me. That's what it was for me. So in high school, I began to kind of do my research on my own. I had my parents there who were very supportive of me, but as a first generation student, there's only so much that you can rely on them from, just because they don't know what the application process for admissions looks like. They don't know very much English. So like even like reading, what the requirements are and what that all kind of looks like was somewhat challenging. So definitely having to navigate all that on my own was something that was a struggle, but I knew that I needed to do. And thankfully, through like people that I knew, through my supervisor, I had a really good supervisor. I worked at a pharmacy, and the pharmacist there really kind of took me under his wing and helped me throughout that process. So I'm very thankful for Jose Guerrero, shout out, at the UC Pharmacy on Porsche in Grand Island. But yeah, no, definitely it was a process just going through the admissions application, the requirements. I actually never even took a tour of Lincoln. I was between, community college or going to Lincoln, didn't even consider any other institutions. At first, I'm like, let me just stay close to home. I want to be in Grand Island Central Community College. But Jesus really helped me kind of like pushed me to kind of like go above and beyond and, just go straight for it, go to a 4-year institution. So, and that's where it all kind of began. I went into my graduate, my bachelor's into college as an undeclared student, so not necessarily know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to go to college on a pre-med track. So, and I bring that up just because my first year was a challenge. It was definitely a struggle. Again, going back to being that first generation student, I did not know what I was getting myself into. I did not know that the transition from high school to college was going to be the way it was for me. Definitely a struggle. The challenge that it was, just moving away from home, the challenge of classes, what a lecture was going to be like. I didn't know what a lecture was going to be. I didn't know, it was all new to me. So it really hit me, especially when it came to the academics and doing the courses. Being in the pre-med track, we were taking higher level math classes, higher level chemistry courses. So putting all that together on a first year student was challenging for me. And I definitely struggled that first semester. I seeked out to as many resources as I could, as many friends that I knew that were going through the same courses as me. And so that was my first semester. Second semester, I was like, you know what, this is not for me. I gotta go back. And I went back to Grand Island, did another semester. My second semester technically was at a community college back home. So I went back. But I knew that I had that mission, still behind my head, back in my head. I'm like, I have a mission, I need to complete it. So starting off my sophomore year was when I came back to the University of Nebraska and started off still undeclared by that time. I knew what I kind of wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to do something in education, not exactly sure, but I knew that I wanted to do something in that field. And it happens to be that same semester, my sophomore semester, my second year, was the time I joined fraternity. and met you all, met all the other now brothers. And specifically, I met Alejandro Diaz, who's one of our brothers, who I had a conversation with him, and I got to know him, got to know what he was doing, and he told me about his major and how, so he is, now I am, a secondary social science education major. And that encompasses 7 different subjects, which I thought was really cool and really interesting. You're very diverse in so many different subjects. So there's like secondary social science education at UNL consists of history, psychology, economics, anthropology. Like there's so much that goes into it. Taking all those courses was really interesting to me. So I went for it, and now I'm, I graduated with that. So, but there was a lot more in between there. There's obviously like that support system that you really need as a student to kind of navigate all of that as you go. So that was just my second year. Slowly but surely, I began to get more involved. So like I said, I joined the fraternity. The Mexican American Student Association group was another organization that I joined that really helped me and boosted me in many directions, that helped me out. I was part of the Oasis Student Success Program, so I was a mentor for them. So that really helped me kind of find my path and what I wanted to do even further. I was an NSC leader, new student enrollment, orientation leader, and little things like that, like just getting involved, getting out there, meeting new people, establishing those connections really helped me continue my education. And little by little, through those opportunities, I began to slowly learn about what student affairs was. And actually, you mentioned you interviewed Moy, and Moy was a great contributor to helping me get to where I wanted to be, which was going to, at that point, I didn't know I wanted to go into student affairs, but I wanted to do something where I was helping students in college. At that point, when I met Moy, that's when I found out what student affairs actually was. So thankfully, through Moy and Oasis, they kind of planted that student affairs seeds in me and kind of got me more informed of what it was. And then senior year, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna apply to these different institutions for grad school. Ended up at Iowa State University, so that was definitely a fun time. My assistantship there was in the Office of Admissions as the multicultural recruiter. So a lot of the work that I did there was also part of my mission, which I guess to conclude that mission, what I had considered my mission was graduating. That was my end goal, right? So at that point, I succeeded in that, and I accomplished what I, had set myself many years behind from that day. And then went on to grad school, went to Iowa State, got my assistantship in admissions recruitment for students of color, which also kind of was another layer to what I wanted to do, was work with marginalized students and being that support system, especially knowing how I kind of struggled through the admissions application process. I was able to help students out in multiple ways in that role. So that really, really satisfied me. That really gave me that fulfillment that I really wanted and needed in higher ed. So that was a 2-year program, a lot of growth, a lot of development throughout that time, a lot of experience that really contributed to where I am today. So that was a 2-year program, and here I am now working for an office, like I mentioned earlier, that really supports students in their development, whether that's helping students make connections socially, helping them academically, helping them grow in just diverse ways as well. So I'm very grateful to be at Oasis and doing the work that I do with our office. So definitely enjoy my time here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know, does that answer? I feel like
yeah. Hey, there's like no
right answer.
To conclude, there's just multiple layers that really have contributed to who Germán is, to who I am, and my identity, my background, and how I hold myself to another standard, right? So because of all of that, my family is a huge contributor, my education, my connection, my network, my brothers, there's so much that goes into it. So
yeah,
thank you.
absolutely.
You're all part of that.
I think you're, you're right in the sense that um, it's, we're kind of like a conglomerate of a bunch of different, events and ideas that people, help us by giving us, maybe some hints, maybe some, advice, maybe just seeing what they're doing and kind of emulating that action, right? Because as humans, we tend to mimic people, right? We tend to kind of follow what other people are doing as well until we kind of learn to develop that own inner, I guess, leader, you could say, right? Um, but one of the questions that, as you were talking, kind of popped up into my head was, if you had to pick, one, two, or three obstacles in your life that, you felt really helped you develop into the person that you are today, at least with regards to your mission. And then in addition to that, this is two questions. Sorry, it's a double combo. It's a wop wop. The second part is, what is your mission, right? So if you could kind of walk us through, what is your mission and what were some obstacles in your life that you felt, right, that really helped you, blossom into the beautiful butterfly that you are today, right?
Um, so just to kind of clarify the question, so what was a challenge that I kind of overcame to get me to where I am, to get to my mission, to complete my mission? Is that?
Yeah, that's, I suppose that, that seems to make sense too. The biggest thing is,
Right.
one, kind of like how has your why, because you touched a little bit about like how your why kind of changed over time, or like your mission, right? Like the mission for what you're doing, and what were the obstacles that came up, or made you maybe change directions to help you, realize your mission or help you kind of more fully develop the mission. I don't know if that's making sense, but.
Yeah. So, I guess kind of like what I kind of mentioned, something that was very challenging for me as an undergrad was the coursework. So as someone who wanted to go into pre-med, it's because I wanted to go into medicine, right? I wanted to help out patients with whatever it was that they needed help with, right? Um, but so that the challenge was the courses, right? It was just challenging for me. It was not what I expected. And I don't know if it was because of the transition itself. There's probably multiple layers that kind of contribute to why it was very challenging for me. But at the end of the day, I realized that my end goal was essentially helping people, getting them to where just helping. That's what it was. It was helping people. And I later then realized that I could do that another way. It didn't necessarily have to be through medicine. It can be through education. So that's the route that I went, wanting to help out people. So definitely, switching my course and my path in that direction and helping students in an academic setting was going to be the way that I think was going to be better for me to be more of a service to others. So initially, I wanted to go into education, right, and wanted to go into high school counseling, which is another route than student affairs. But because of the experiences that I had, the involvement that I had as an undergrad, kind of like I mentioned, I slowly changed my path again and went into student affairs, just because I think that's something that there's not a lot of representation. I guess in education, there's in education, there's really no representation. And when I say representation, I'm talking specifically of Latinos, Latinas, Latinx folk in those areas. I never had a person of color in general throughout my K through 12 experience. It wasn't until college until that I had someone who looked like me, was Latino. So at the end of the day, I wanted to be a representation. I wanted to be someone that they could rely on, someone that they can seek out for support, even if it was just to have a conversation, someone that they can relate to, right? And I think that was my mission. That was my end goal. I wanted to help out in that sense. And I think that student affairs specifically was the route that I think I could really, help out and serve for others.
Absolutely. I think that's.
I hope that answers that.
Oh yeah, that was good. I mean, who am I to judge that answer, right? I think everybody has their own story, and the way that they develop their story is, you know, it's influenced by so many things. You're right. It's one, how you look at the way the world kind of unfolds, and two, how the world unfolds for you. You know what I mean? And is who's anybody to say that somebody's experience is wrong, right? So I think that's incredible that you've you've had to kind of rework what you're seeing in front of you and decide, okay, is this helping me? Can I do this? Maybe I don't want to do this. Asking yourself that question, because if you're not happy, right, and you're not achieving your mission, it kind of sucks. Or if you are achieving your mission but you're still not happy, that's another discussion worth having. And so I think that's really important that you were able to have those kind of discussions and those questions. And one more thing that I want to touch on that I really enjoyed that you kind of talked about, it was the fact that you never had like a Latinx, Latina person as like for my perspective, like in a position of success or power, right? Like a teacher or like a counselor or a advisor. I think what was it? Like for me personally, I met my first like Latino doctor when I was a senior in college, right? That's the first time I met a Latino doctor, and I thought that was mind-boggling when I actually went back to look at my life, and I was like, damn, I've gone this far without actually meeting one. That's it's nuts. It's absolutely crazy. And so I really relate to you in that sense of like, I want to be there and be able to relate to somebody, because it's I don't know, it enables like a different perspective, and two, it just gives like a foot in the door for people to come up to you and ask you for help, because you've lived a similar story to them. You know what I mean? You know what it's like to eat tortillas and frijoles for lunch. You know what I mean? And it's little things like that you can relate to, right? Like you can speak to them in Spanish, you can talk to them, you can converse with them. You understand like the importance of family, and you also relate to the fact that when you're first gen, you don't, like, your parents aren't. It's not that they just don't know, right? They're not in a position that they can help you, for you to do the best that you can do, right? But they know that education is the way, but you're kind of finding the light in the dark. You know what I'm saying? Like you're feeling around trying to figure out what's happening. So I definitely relate to you with that.
For sure. And I think like I don't think we've realized how important it is to have someone that looks like us in a position where we're trying to get to, until we finally meet someone that's in that position, right? A lot of our peers that may be of other ethnicities or races, most people have someone that looks like them, right? Or it's more portrayed in their culture that these people get to these positions, right? But I feel like with us, with our Latino or Hispanic heritage, I feel like, and we talked about these in other episodes, we just don't see many success stories as much as other people, it feels like, right? Maybe it's just because we live in Nebraska and we're just not exposed to that, right? Which is an issue within itself. But I know, like, for myself, I didn't realize how much I appreciated, I guess, seeing someone that looked like me, until I finally got to see someone that looked like me in a position, right? So I think that's, I think we can all relate on that, especially growing up here in small town Nebraska, and in small village Nebraska. So, but kind of going off of that, one thing that I kind of wanted to ask you, that's another two-part question, because we like to keep those rolling for you. The first one is the question that we ask all our guests. So I want to hit on what does success mean to you, right? And like, what is success to you? You talk about accomplishing your missions. Is that what success looks like to you, or is it something else? And then following that, what do you think is your biggest success so far in your academic career? I think we all have moments that when we finally allow ourselves to be praised, or something that even maybe nobody even noticed, but you really kind of helps you define your success. So I kind of want you to hit on those things.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess first, what is success to me? Like, how do I define that? Oof, I feel like that's a very open-ended question that can mean so many things. You know, I can see, you know, success professionally as a student, you know, academically, personally, but I feel like there's also a lot of intersectionality between everything. That's a very good question.
Thank you.
I guess there's multiple ways. You stumped me there. No, I think success, there's many variations of success, right? I think there can be like short-term successes and long-term successes, but I think overall, they all have a common, I guess, theme. There has to be some sort of, I guess, challenge, some sort of obstacle that you overcome, or maybe not overcome, but there's some sort of success, there's some sort of challenge that you kind of are able to navigate. And by short term, this can be maybe like, you know, a school project. There's a class project that you're gonna work, and maybe there's multiple layers to that where you need to interview people, I don't know, collect data, for example. There's something that you need to do that there's gonna be maybe some sort of challenge. But there's also those long-term goals, for example, like success of graduating college, right? Like that's gonna take multiple years for some people. So I think that for me, that's what success looks like, and it ties very closely with like what happiness looks like for me, right? I think there's a quote that I really like, and that I've always, you know, when asked, like, I think this is what's my favorite quote. I think this is the one I've said for multiple years now, which is, life is short, so believe truly, laugh loudly. Oh God, what was it? Life is short. I don't want to get it wrong. Hold on. Let me check right quick. So life is short, so believe slowly, love truly, laugh loudly, and never avoid the things that make you smile. I think that success can be in a single day. I think if I don't meet any of those in one day, I don't think I've had a successful day. I think there's a lot that goes into it. But for me, I guess one of the greatest accomplishments one of the greatest successes that I've accomplished and have gotten to has been graduation. You know, when specifically talking about my academic career. And I don't think it really hit me until I was, first, my bachelor's, which was back in 2018, but it didn't hit me until I was outside of the arena after a commencement. And I was taking a picture with my mom, and she was holding the diploma and had my cap on. So I think it was at that moment when I realized, like, I accomplished my mission. Like, my mission is done here. That was my first mission. My second one was, you know, grad school. You know, I kept on going. So definitely that was another mission, another 2 years of late nights, long papers, you know, a lot of going on. But I don't think it hit me that I had completed that mission until actually 2 weeks ago because of COVID, Iowa State also went virtual. We didn't walk, none of that. So everyone's diplomas went through mail. So I didn't get mine until like 3 weeks ago. And it arrived back home, back in Grand Island, and my parents got it. And then I went at that time. I went and I opened it, and it was just an emotional time. Like, I think that's another accomplishment. That's another mission that I succeeded in. I was like, dang, I got this. And being there with my parents at that time, like, it was definitely a great time. I'm getting chills right now just talking about it. So I would consider those two to be my greatest, like, academic career accomplishments and missions that I've been able to complete. So.
Okay. No, I think that's awesome. Especially like as a first generation, when you finally get that diploma, right? Especially, I mean, I don't know that yet because haven't graduated from my undergrad yet, but this is why I assume. Um,
Okay.
when you look at that first one, you finish your undergrad, you're like, this one was for everybody that supported me, everyone that got me through this, right? This one's for my family because they expected me to get this done, and I got it done, right? Like this one's for everybody else, right? And then I know Moy said that before. He's like, my master's and my PhD, that one's for me, right? Like that one's just like because I believed in myself enough to be able to go get those, right? Like I accomplished the mission to get my undergrad and get that done for my family, but now it's time for me to accomplish some stuff for myself as well. So I think that's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. No, and I can definitely echo more on what he said. That first one, there's just something about, that first degree that it's just like, dang, after so many years, K through 12, and then kind of going even more after that, like another few more years, it's like, dang, yeah, no, I can definitely echo one more. It was exciting.
And something I kind of want to follow up, since I kind of asked you what your greatest academic success was, is I feel like when you experience college, you realize just how much you learn through the experiences that you have in college, right? Like outside of the classroom. Like most of the time, the things that we take away from our college experience don't necessarily come from what you learned in your lecture hall, right? Your sophomore year. It's more about the people that you met, the experiences that you had, the clubs that you were in. So I wanted you to kind of hit on some of those highlights. What do you think are some of those experiences you had in college that kind of really helped you get through it, and then kind of set you up as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a lot. Definitely my involvement. I think my involvement in undergrad was what I would consider my self-care. It was what I did to kind of step away from my academics and kind of de-stress and just take some time to, step away from all that and just hang out and do other things, whether it was community service or putting on an event, whatever the case may be. Definitely my involvement contributed to that. And I would have to say my first semester of my first year, I joined MASA, the Mexican American Student Association. And it was through them where I got to meet my first friends, like in college, people that I didn't know in high school. So that really helped me and really pushed me to continue to keep on going. Like I said, my first semester was bad. It wasn't the best. And I'm very grateful for the connections that I made that were able to kind of push me. And we stayed connected even that second semester when I went back home and went to community college. We stayed connected. And I think it was because of MASA and the mission that they had, like the purpose of the organization itself, what they valued was what kind of kept us all connected. And because of MASA, I feel like I decided that I needed to come back because I just wanted to be back and just continue that connection and build those relationships. So definitely the organization and the involvement that I had. So that was a big contributor to me my first few years and still today. And then, joining the fraternity, that was another big contributor to my growth and development and my perseverance overall. Working with you all, having, late night, study sessions, and there's a lot that goes into that development and that growth. But definitely I would have to say the fraternity as well. Oasis as a whole, as a student, like I mentioned, I was involved with them a lot. So whether that was working at the front desk or as a mentor, I think being a mentor was something that also really helped me find my path, because I was able to talk to other students who were coming in as first year students and helping them kind of transition, and then helping them kind of find those resources and services if they needed that extra help. So that itself, like helping others, was another way for me to continue and continue to persevere as I completed my degree.
Mm-hmm.
So I think involvement for sure. Like I mentioned, it was definitely my self-care and what really helped me continue. So.
Sweet. Usually, yeah, he's good at jumping in, but are you still stirring in your thoughts?
Yeah. I'm contemplating some questions.
Mhm.
I guess I can ask you this one. So you're at this point in your life where you're about to make a major kind of I don't know if about major. I don't want to put like words in your mouth, but you're about to make a transition, right? You're about to go from being in academics and going into what I call the big world. Like you're about to be a full grown man, right? You're about to be an adult and have responsibilities and have a job and no longer have to do like papers and stuff and for a grade. Now it's for that
No,
paycheck. You know what I'm
For
saying?
now, until he gets that PhD.
never
Yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Right.
Doctor Avila. Yeah, dude. Hey, we need more of those. Um, but regardless, for now, you're gonna be doing this next step, right? And so now you're gonna be working with those students, right? And so as somebody at the beginning of this next step in your journey, like what do you think are some obstacles that or even with the students that you have worked, like what are some obstacles that they have that you feel that students face and the things that stop them from achieving their goals? And what advice can you give to, I guess, help them on their way?
Right. So the students that I have worked with, I'm gonna, right now, I don't have that direct contact with students just because I started during the middle of a pandemic. So I don't have that direct contact that I was looking for at the moment. So I guess through the experience that I have had that contact was through my assistantship as a graduate student. So like I mentioned, I was in the Office of Admissions as the graduate student for multicultural recruitment. So a lot of the work that I did it was considered a two component position. So I was either on the road going to high school, college fairs, events, things like that, talking to students about Iowa State, the admissions application process and what that all kind of looked like. But there was also that other component where I was hosting my cultural-based events. So putting together a Spanish visit day, right? Like having Spanish-speaking families come to this event to learn about Iowa State and what was the application process, what was living on campus looking like. Many parents really don't understand a lot of higher ed and the components that kind of go into it. So teaching them about the admissions process, also what living and housing was going to look like, what what a lecture was, what a recitation was, what so many things. And I think so. Speaking on that specifically, that was the work that I was doing. I think that's a lot of things that really kind of held a lot of students back. They didn't have that knowledge. They didn't have that. So being able to provide that to them really was fulfilling for me. I think something else that really held a lot of students back was, I guess, financial aid. That's very important, but also this sense of like imposter syndrome, like this is not for me, kind of a thing. And I think a lot of students struggled with that. They knew that they wanted to go to college, but when it came time, I think they just kind of decided to either not go to college or decided to start off maybe like at a community college and then maybe go from there. But if they wanted to go directly to a four-year institution, a lot of it was, like I said, the knowledge and being informed and what that all kind of looked like, financial aid, and also just that imposter syndrome about maybe not necessarily feeling comfortable, maybe not necessarily feeling like that was the right fit for them at the moment. So I think those are some things that really are holding people back in that role that I had with the students that I was interacting with at that time.
Absolutely. And so a quick follow-up question to that. Have you ever felt the preposterous imposter syndrome? And if so, how have you kind of dealt with it? Because I know I personally have felt it quite a bit. And I'm sure I'm not the only first generation student that has felt that. So I'm kind of curious what your perspective is on that.
Yeah, I I felt it throughout forever. I still feel it right now. Like as someone who's starting off in a position, I sometimes feel like, am I doing things right? Like, am I like, is this how it's supposed to be done? Like, I felt it a lot during grad school. I think just because I feel like at that time when you're a grad student, you're considered a student, but you're also like a pre-professional, right? So you're like in between, where you gotta kind of also need to learn to navigate that. So I felt it a lot during grad school. And I guess just the way I really was able to kind of overcome that at that moment was having that network, having those connections, being able to talk to someone. Thankfully, I was in a cohort model program, so I had a lot of people that, so my cohort was 32 students, very racially and ethnically diverse. So, you know, you always find your cliques, you have your cohort, and then you have your community. So you always have to find that community, and I had my community, of course. So definitely relying on them and being able to, you know, talk to them. And I also, you know, I was very close, I still am very close to my supervisor of that position. And I was able to always talk to him just because we identify a lot. We had a lot of the same identity. He's a Latino male. So I was able to really connect with him and be able to just be real with him and talk to him about different concerns, different feelings that I was having at that time, whether it was with the role itself, the position, or just as a student. So thankfully I had that opportunity to have him there and see him as, you know, as a role model, as someone I can look up to and be able to, you know, rely on if I had any questions. So definitely having that network, that community is very important. And that's something that really helped me out.
For sure. You know, it makes sense, you know, and it's incredible that you know, you discovered that group of people. I think that, you know, you're like right on the money with that, because it's if you don't have people you can feel like you can, you know, have a conversation with and talk about the things that are actually bothering you, rather than just shooting the shit and pretending like you're okay. I think it definitely helps with that, because you know, like imposter syndrome, you know, it is a legit thing. Like for me personally, like I've gone through life and I'm like, do I belong here? You know, is like I've made it this far. Like, you know, should I really be here? Do I want to be here? Am I happy? Well, you know, what are all these things happening right now? Like, well, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? And it's all these questions, and especially like in just in classroom settings. And at this point, because it's like, I don't want to look like an ass, but at the same time, it's like I'm here to learn, so I should, you know, open myself up and be willing to ask questions. But at the same time, there's that little voice in your head that's like, "Oh, you're gonna look stupid." It's like you're an idiot. Don't raise your hand. And I think if you don't have somebody you're willing to talk to about that and just have a conversation, because it's not only happening to you at the end of the day. Like it's something that happens to a lot of people, and especially people in, you know, first gen that I've talked to. Like they've all had that. I think Irvin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but literally everybody that we've interviewed so far has had some sort of imposter syndrome, right?
Oh, yeah. Everyone's brought it up.
Yeah, everybody's brought it up on their own accord, like not even asking about it, right? Just like kind of how you brought it up too. So I think it's important to really highlight how everybody has like a diverse story, right? Like nobody's experience has been the same, and we've even gotten people from Grand Island too. And, you know, it doesn't even. But regardless, like one of the things that they talk about, right, is imposter syndrome, and then being able to have that community, right, having that that mentor. And I'm going to ask one more follow-up question, Irvin, and then I'll toss it back over to you, bro.
You're good.
But what are the qualities that you look for in a mentor? And like, what was your first mentor? Like, who was your first mentor? You know what I mean? How did you get a mentor? So just kind of talk to me about that whole experience.
I think for someone to be like the mentor, like in that relationship, I think it just has to happen organically. Like it's not like I'm gonna go out and look for a mentor, right? I think it's something that just has to happen because of the person. For example, for me, it's just someone who I can relate to, someone who is accessible and always, maybe asking like, hey, how's it going? Like, how are things? It just happens naturally. It's not necessarily like I'm gonna go and find this person with these qualities. And I would have to say the first person that was my mentor, my mentor, someone who really helped me out was a pharmacist who I mentioned earlier, Jose Guerrero, who really helped me through my transition, moving from high school to college, and helping me in between with like the application process and what that was like. There's also and then also through college I have people that really helped me out. But then there's also in grad school I had his name is Jesus Estrada, who that guy he, I would consider him a real mentor. Like he was really someone who I can really relate to and have like those conversations that he's going to tell me straight out, hey, you're doing this right, you're doing this wrong. So someone who is just, I don't know, it's just organic. It just happens to be that relationship that you have with that person. And for me, that's what it was. It was more someone who I can relate to, someone who I can, maybe see myself in, someone who has had the same experiences that I had. So.
Absolutely. I think you're touching on some really important stuff right there. With regards to like, it's important to have an idea of like what you're looking for a mentor, right? You want that accountability. You want that, that knowing that they're going to take care of you in terms of, they're willing to check up on you. They're willing to relate to you. They're willing to give you the time of day, it's a couple of those things, but there are some things, and you keep saying happen organically, right? Because it's like a little bit of magic, dude. I don't know. It's some crazy kind of witchcraft stuff that happens that is just like, you connect to somebody in a way that you're like, oh, dude, I really like this person. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of happens. And, I wish I could break that down more, but at this point it's hard. It's hard to really get down to those nuts and bolts of like the kind of chemistry that happens between the two of you that just makes you work and willing to work as a unit, and cause that was like one of the things that I found that Moy, cause I consider Moy my first like legitimate mentor. Like I had other people, I had advisors, but did I have a mentor? And I consider it differently because a mentor, like to me, is somebody who is willing to help me guide my life and take some kind of views me more as like as a person. Like they relate to me on a different level, right? An advisor is somebody who's telling me if I'm on the path or not, right? If I'm doing, if I'm meeting the requirements, right? They have like guidelines, they have all these things, right? Most of the time when I go in and talk to Moy, we don't talk about guidelines. We don't talk about, occasionally we'll talk about principles, maybe principles of life or whatever it may be, but like it's usually some other deep conversation about like, what's wrong? Like what's wrong with me? Like what am I doing wrong? Like what, and it's usually more interpersonal stuff, right? It's stuff beneath the surface, and I wouldn't be willing to disclose that to my advisor. Like personally, no. Like I'm like one of your 40 students that you have that you're trying to make sure that they graduate. So it's like you know what I mean? So I think you're definitely catching some some real life stuff because it's it's important to have that connection with somebody that ideally maybe it's somebody who I really like how you said you see yourself in, right? Like they have a part of you that they have like a part of them is very similar to a part of you, and maybe the way you kind of want to be like them, and you want to be that like them because they're your role model. You know what I mean? Kind of like it seems like a human nature thing for us to want to mimic the people that we consider to be successful or to be the person that maybe that we're trying to be, right? It's it's kind of hard for, I'm not trying to generalize, but I think it's just somewhere in that general area, right? I think that's awesome, man. I think that's really incredible that you were able to find the people like that, because there's a lot of people that didn't find that, and
Right.
there's a lot of people that don't make it through school, and whether that's related or not, I don't know. Maybe it is, but it's really important to take the time to find that community, right? Because that's different than your cohort. I like that too, that you said that. That was cool, man.
For sure. And I think it's important that you mentioned how mentorship kind of happens organically, right? I feel like often, especially in your first year, you kind of get pushed to like, oh, find your mentor, or like, hey, get in this mentor program, right? You'll get a mentor, and it's helpful in a way, but I think it's also kind of forced. And sometimes like these mentors, you get, and you were both mentors in some capacity. You get so many mentees, right? And it's hard to make a true connection with everybody, right? There's just the people that you're not going to click with. But I think what's good about those programs, it kind of just exposes you to the thought of, oh, it'd be cool to have a mentor, right? Like maybe it's not this person, but just being introduced to that concept I think it's a great idea. I was fortunate enough to have various mentors growing up, mainly coaches that really kind of helped structure me growing up. But I would say Moy was the first mentor that looked like me, right? And I never realized like how much of a different level that could be, right? Like I had great coaches, great people in my life that helped put me where I'm at. But then having Moy, which I mean, we all know how great of a person he is, but just the fact that he looks like me and I could relate to him on a whole nother level, just kind of just elevated the concept of mentorship to me, which is, you don't know how much that's helpful until you have it. Or so. One thing that I wanted to touch on was, I guess, pivoting back to your professional work is, since you're like we've talked about, you're just starting this position. What makes you nervous about the position, or what are you most anxious about in regards to working in your new environment? Is there anything that you're kind of like, I don't know how that's going to go, or like, oh, I'm a little scared to take this on type of thing? And if so, like, how do you plan to kind of overcome that?
Yeah. Well, I guess to begin, it's nice to know that I'm coming into an office in a space that I know, right? Like I know the office, I know the staff. So that's something that's reassuring to me. I'm like, okay, I'm easing into it. Like I know who's here. I know how to start off. And I guess something that is kind of something that's just kind of there that I'm just like, oh, we'll see how this goes. Mm-hmm. Is I've never really had, so I did recruitment. So I was working with high school students, and now I'm working in a college setting where I'm working with college students. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be different, and learning how to transition and being able to be that help, like that helper and that advisor for students is going to look a little bit different. Especially for working at a multicultural center, the experiences that students are having on campus, especially now today, it's going to look very different than what my role was as a recruiter for high school students and transfer mm-hmm. students. So I think that's going to be a major transition for me, especially with the social political climate that we're living in right now, mm-hmm. and adding a pandemic on top of that is something that's very, I'm just like, we'll see how this goes. And it's nice to know that I have a staff that is very supportive and someone I can also rely on if I need that help and support mm-hmm. myself as well. So yeah, that's going to be something that's going to be different.
Mm-hmm. Cool. One last, I guess, comment. I don't really have another question. It's just a comment. Do you guys remember when we went to one Joven Nobles meeting, and it was just like the three of us, right?
Right.
And it was like the first time I had gone, and I believe the first time Yair had gone. I don't know if Hermani had been
I don't think so.
to
No.
something before that. And for me, that memory in college really sticks out to me because I feel like that was one of the first days where I was like, or really maybe the first day where I was like, when we were just having that, we were in a circle. They were just asking us questions, and we were just answering them. Right, we were their college student panel or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back. I think of that day a lot. And like I said, it's probably the first day that I thought like these are the type of kids that I want to help. Right, like this is like it felt right. Like it was like this is the type of work I want to do in the future in some capacity. So I just wanted to tell you guys that that's always a moment that I think of quite often in my life. I don't know if it sticks out to you guys as much as it does to me, but that's always a cool thing because we haven't, I don't. Yair and I have talked about it before, but I don't think we've talked about it as a triplet here. So yeah, just kind of want to let you both know and let the people know that sometimes it's just those small things that you never know would even have an impact on you, right? That end up having the most. It's not like it was a class. It was, just some volunteer work that it was just us three. It wasn't like the whole fraternity went or anything. But
Literally us. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, it was literally just us three, and it's been a very impactful moment in my life.
Yeah, I think I think back to that moment too, and I view it from two angles, right? And I've already told you, Irvin, because we've talked about it a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll share it with Herman. Herman, do you remember that dude with the man bun? That like really old dude when it was like us three college students that were coming in all scrawny and little and shit and young and no hair on our chins and so young and full of life. And then there was this dude who was like all burly and like had a beard and stuff and was just like chilling. You remember that guy?
Don't.
You don't remember that guy? Shit, because he was there at that Joven Nobles thing.
Oh, the guy there. Yeah.
Yeah, you remember
Okay.
him?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he was like the fourth dude on our panel.
Right, right.
And like you were I remember like I remember Irvin. So I remember I said something because I was trying to answer a question for one of the kids about partying because they're high school kids and they were just like asking questions like, so what are college parties like? And I try to take it seriously and I try to answer it. And I obviously like the words just bounced right the fuck off. Like it was like as if I threw a little piece of paper and it just bounced right off. You know what I'm saying? Like had no effect whatsoever. I should have just saved my oxygen, bro, because I wasted that shit, man. They did not pay attention to me at all, and for good reason, man. I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. And then I remember Irvin responded right after me, and Irvin gave a dope ass answer. I can barely even like remember what the answer was, but I remember how it made me feel, right? And it made me feel I was like, damn, this motherfucker right here is like, this is, Jesus, it's like I gotta step my game up, fucking dropping this kind of knowledge here, shit. And then I remember afterwards, right? I remember afterwards because the dude like came up to Irvin, he's like, bro, you got a good head on your shoulders. And at that point I was like, damn, dude, I need to follow what Irvin's doing because he's obviously he's got something right up here. You know what I mean? And so like when I think of that, I think of also helping those kids out, but in the same way, like it made me kind of realize like the kind of person that you were, Urban, and made me want to be more like you, right? And I remember that because like that was before we really became like really close friends, because that was spring semester our freshman year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember that specifically. And so that's how I personally remember that memory. Is like, damn, dude, this dude's got some knowledge. I need to figure out that knowledge because it'll help me in my life. You know what I mean? Because like helping kids was important, right? But I didn't really have that moment of like I actually felt like I helped somebody until I think it was like junior year or maybe even senior year. I think it was junior year though, when like I was talking to kids about school and I was actually able to give them some wisdom from life. You know what I mean? It wasn't like me knowing the answer in a book. You know what I mean? And at that point, that's when I felt like I was truly having an impact because they were listening, right? Like there's one thing for me to tell them the right answer and then not give a crap about it because like they get that from all the other adults, right? And then it's another thing that me have lived through that experience because I lived a lot of life between freshman year to junior year to senior year, right? But then speaking at it from my own personal life experience, and I don't know, you seem to have that kind of wisdom from a young age. So, Irvin, I don't know where you got your wisdom.
Hey, me neither, man. I don't know if I have any wisdom, but
It's always been like that. He's just been.
Yeah, bro. He just he's a man of few words, but when he says his words, it's just like pop, pop, pop.
No, something I do remember about that meeting specifically was when we arrived. I gripped up with the coordinator. We did the fraternity handshake. And you two were like, "Wait, what? What's going on?" I guess I forgot to tell you all that the person I was in contact with was a fraternity brother as well, so the coordinator for the group. But I do remember that specifically, that you all were like, "Wait, what? You didn't tell us? Like what?"
Oh yeah, dude. Oh my gosh.
Shout out to Tunes.
Yeah, shout out to Tunes. We're gonna have to have him on the show eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. But Herman, so at this point, you know, we one, I want to thank you for taking the time to kind of you know, hop on here and really, you know, having a conversation with us. It's been really fun to do this and kind of learn a little bit more about you and your journey, and I think that kind of you know, either kept you on the path, moved you to a different path, or made you reevaluate whatever you needed to reevaluate. And so, you know, it was a pleasure being able to learn that about you. And at this point, like, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Or any comments, concerns,
Jokes.
memories, like
Memories. Too many memories.
Too many.
It was a fun conversation. This is something we should definitely continue, you know, on our own over here, off script.
Off air.
No, for sure. I think you know, just having these conversations between us three, and maybe, you know, just, I guess we just need to come back as a line sometime again. I think last time we all talked was back December.
Yeah, once a year.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but no, thank you so much for having me. It was definitely fun. So.
Great. So want to reiterate what Yaid said. You know, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you. You know, like we said, we know you a little bit better than we have any of our other interviewees. So it was cool to get to see, you know, this side of you as well, and kind of even dive deeper into stuff that we even didn't know as much about. So you know, thank you for sharing all that stuff. For the rest of y'all, you know, made it this far, you know, we appreciate you guys sticking around. You know, if you enjoy what you heard, feel free to share with whoever you think might benefit from it. Go ahead and leave us a like button, hit a subscribe. You know, we come with these every week for the most part, unless something comes up. But you know, we like to keep this going as much as we can. But yeah, that's all I got. Any of you two got any parting words for the people?
A lot of water out there, so.
Yeah, true. Drink your water, and we'll see you guys again next week. Peace out.